All right, bud. Welcome to the Garen Guide. Now, you and I happen to play the same champion, which is why you've been an inspiration for me to make this. So thank you there. Uh, but what I do is I learn champions is I like to put research into them. So I've gathered a bunch of information, and I'm going to present that information to you here in different sections. And these are just the pieces of info that I think are the most helpful to let you focus on learning the matchups instead of, well, what are these other things like items that I need to be thinking about? So in this guide, we'll discuss Garen's abilities, his trade patterns, the stats he likes, the items he likes to build, and the runes that you should equip, or at least a couple options of runes that you can then adjust per the matchup. Um, yeah, but first, why are we playing Garen? I picked Garen because he's a scaling split pusher who takes towers quickly and can either one-shot or disengage from any enemy champion that's sent to contest him. So yeah, his kits and his uh, lane play style and his mid to late game play style are very approachable. They're very foundational, and they force you to learn and kind of rely on top lane fundamentals to do well. So I like that his straightforwardness and his stability. That makes it very approachable for me. You know, when I think of new players or people returning from a long break to the game, his reliance on those foundational skills of top lane mean that any time that you spend learning Garen will be translatable to every other top laner, right? I mean, not to mention he has a 52% win rate in gold and below, so he's pretty good too. But yeah, let's get into it here. Okay, so let's focus on his abilities here. We'll just do a quick rundown. You obviously already know all of these, but just making sure that we are, on speaking on the same terms here, we'll go over them really quick. I'll also throw in a couple ways to utilize these in lane that can be helpful. So his passive here, that's the regeneration aspect of Garen. You can see it around Garen right now. That's the little green lines that are going. That means his passive is working, is going. Additionally, there is a sound indicator that will happen, a little chime when it begins. So you can know without looking down at the bar here that it is working. But what it is a percentage health regeneration that works on a tick basis. So every 5 seconds, in this case here, I would receive 2% of my max health every 5 seconds. This is interrupted by tower shots, enemy auto attacks, abilities, or summoner spells, and epic monsters. But something to note is it is not interrupted by minion attacks. So you can be tanking a wave or something like that, and it won't interrupt your passive. This is useful in lane as a... It's very forgiving. It's part of why Garen's so forgiving to play. When you're learning matchups, a lot of times you're going to take a trade that you think is going to be beneficial, and it turns out to be a big whoopsie. And in the top lane, that can be lane ending. Just one trade essentially. Because then if you're on another character that's not Garen, you might be in a position where you have to back and burn your teleport or use your health pot at the risk of, being ganked or zoned from the wave or just outright killed in the next all-in that they force on you. So with this, you can take that disadvantageous trade, say, whoops, okay, now I know, back off, regenerate your health, and then, change your strategy. Additionally, this passive makes it so that taking an equal, or even in some cases, a slightly losing trade, is beneficial, or is okay to do, at least. Because you'll regenerate that health back. They're not going to have that regeneration. And, this passive paired with one of the starting items we'll go over and a rune that we'll go over, means that you have essentially infinite sustain, you have an infinite health bar, and on top of that you have no mana, so that you will out-sustain just about any champion, right? So this helps make Garen very forgiving, and, you know, equal trades are actually winning trades. So just keep that in mind. All right, his Q. His Q, you know, you're moving around here. We'll zoom out real quick. You hit Q, and then boom. You get a little bit of a burst of speed. His sword glows, and the next attack that he does is empowered. It does more damage. So, again, just hovering over it. Garen, when he hits Q, actually removes slowing effects from himself. So if you are affected by, let's say, Nasus's Wither, right? Or maybe Darius's W that slows you. You can hit Q, boink, and of course you'll get that burst of speed, but you will also completely remove the slow from yourself. So it's really nice at, you know, they're trying to go for an all-in and you're like, oh, whoops, okay, I'm going to remove that slow and just kind of walk it out. Or maybe they're trying to disengage from you by slowing you, and nope, sorry, I'm gonna hit Q and run after you. So it gives that move speed burst. What it will also do that's super slept on is he has one of the only abilities left that silences. I can only think of Soraka E. Yeah, Soraka's E is the only other one that I can think of that still silences. But it will silence the enemy character for 1.5 seconds. You know, silences will interrupt a channeled ability. So if you silence Fiddlesticks while he's ulting, you know, before it goes off, you will cancel his ultimate. If Katarina comes in and jumps on your team and ulties, if you silence her, her ulti's done. And now she can't jump or flash away. So it does make, you know, if you are grouped up as a team, it does make jumping into Garen a little scary sometimes, depending on what the ability is. This is also useful in lane for, say, stopping a teleport. You know, if your lane opponent is teleporting away to a team fight, a lot of times as Garen, you're not taking teleport, but you can stop theirs. If they have a big ability that's going to make them win a trade, or prevent you from, prevent your ulti from killing them, say like set W or something, you can save your Q, you can use your Q right before your ulti. So you can use your Q, you've got 1.5 seconds, so maybe you can E for a little bit, and then you'll see the silence bar on top of them deplete, and at the very end of that silence bar, you'll hit your ulti. So that's kind of how to utilize his Q here. His W, Courage, the active is really the thing that we'll be focusing on here. And you'll hit W and you'll get a bunch of shields around you for a short amount of time, and you'll get a little grayness to your health bar. You get a little shield on your health bar. So boop. All right, that's it. And then you get the flames around you for 4 seconds here. So there is a visual aspect to this, but the actives what we'll focus on first. Now the flames around you, okay? The thing that kind of lingered there. So you hit W, and for 4 seconds you'll reduce enemy incoming damage by 30%. So that's huge. You know, you can use this in a trade. You'll take less damage for 4 seconds, and then hopefully by that point the trade's over, you can disengage. What it's very useful for, though, is gaining that small shield, of course. That's always nice, but the 60% tenacity that it gives you. And that is visually indicated because the 60% tenacity is only 4.75 seconds. So the visual indicator for the tenacity reducing part is boom, the shields, both on your health bar and around you, and then you see the flames for the 4 seconds of damage mitigation. So what you're typically going to be using W for is stopping incoming CC that you can react to. So this would be seeing, Maokai W. You know, he's Twisted Rooting or whatever it's called, or maybe Maokai Ulti, either one, coming at you. As it's about to hit you, boom, you reduce the amount of time that you're CC'd by 60%. Or maybe the support Morgana ganks you, or they're taking Morgana jungle and she's ganking you. You see her bind come out, boom, hit W. You'll only be stunned for a short duration. So it makes it hard to lock Garen down. Now, one of the mechanics is a strong word, but one of the things to, I guess, learn about Garen and learn in matchups is when to use W. So I used Set as an example earlier. You know, he's got his W that gives him a shield and does true damage to you if you're in the center, but does damage out in a cone. When he uses this ability, you will hit W, you get that shield, you get the damage mitigation. So just learning matchups and when to use it, whether you need to hold it for an ability or whether you are going to use it during a trade, is the I guess the hard part about Garen. But it's on a big cooldown too, so this is a very important ability to utilize correctly. It's 23 seconds level 1. Okay, so we'll focus now on Judgment, which is his E. This is the spin to win. You know, you can move while you're doing it. You can use Q. It ended early there, but you can get the speed boost from Q while you're in your E. You can use your W while you're in your E. All that kind of stuff. So it's very again, this is the other half of the bread and butter, both his Q and his E, that you're going to be using to trade. So he spins the sword for 3 seconds. He deals physical damage. The spinning, the damage that you will do by hitting your E, and again, so you get that speed boost. But the damage that you will do when you hit your E scales off of attack speed. You know, that determines how many times you spin, so therefore doing more damage, and crit chance. This ability crits. And crit on Garen, we'll go over that in a second. It's super good. This is an AoE ability, but it does more damage to the unit that you are closer to. It doesn't really matter so much. You're just going to be spinning and trying to stick on top of the enemy character. There is a little nuance to this where, at least early on, it's going to take the whole spin, but after getting hit by 6 strikes, so again, level 1, you do 7 strikes. So getting hit by almost all of them makes the enemy character lose 25% armor. So what I've found is by the time that your E is done, if you are trading in lane by yourself, you know, you're disengaging at that point. You're walking away. You don't have any other abilities to use unless it's a situation where you're going to ulti them, and that's true damage anyway. So this is nice for the reduction in armor for, you know, an extended fight, if you're taking one of those, or if you're getting a gank from your jungler, because then at that point you can kind of continue the fight without worrying that, oh, I don't have any abilities, because your jungler's there. And again, this is AoE, so if it's a 2v2 and you're able to get 6 strikes on 2 characters, both enemies there, then they're both losing 25% armor, so it's super nice. Last and definitely not least is his ultimate. I'll use this on a thing. Let me find this really quick. We'll do an enemy dummy. Boom, right there. And that's the boom! You know, the bigness, okay? Anyway, the ultimate, it's a true damage execute. There's not a whole lot to it, right? The percentage of missing health that you do scales with levels, you know, 25, 30, 35%. And then the base damage that it does as well scales. So the one thing to keep in mind here is that unlike other characters who also have an execute, like Cho'Gath, for example, Cho'Gath gets an indicator for when he can kill the enemy with his ulti, when he is going to execute them. Pyke gets an indicator for when, if he ultis them, he will execute them. Garen doesn't get that, which is unfortunate. But that's why we take Ignite, you know, and there is a chart, if I can find it, I'll link it, that will give you a good idea of, it helped me at least, of, okay, my enemy laner has this much total health, you know, this much total health, and then it'll tell you at what level your ability is, your ultimate is, and what amount of health remaining you can execute them from. Basically here, what to keep in mind is that if your enemy opponent, at least in lane, is like 55 to 60% HP, and again, this is without them really having any items, but you can go in for an all-in and expect to kill them and attempt to kill them using all of your abilities. So that's kind of his kill range there. Okay, yeah, we won't focus on summoner spells or anything like that. Let's get into the trade patterns here. Okay, let's focus here on Garen's trade patterns. Now, level 1, you're going to be taking Q or E. The goal here with these trade patterns is to first get as much damage out as quickly as possible. A lot of times a secondary focus is proccing Phase Rush to disengage from the fight, since Garen is pretty weak early, generally speaking. But we'll start with E in those situations where you do take E. Both Q and E are auto attack resets, so you will start with an auto attack. So you'll auto E, right? Then do the whole E duration. You know, again, that's in the situations where you're starting E early. Q is the other one that's an auto attack reset. So auto Q, right? Okay, the reason that we do that is it gets as much damage out as quickly as possible, like I said, but we will compare canceling our auto attack with our Q, so doing auto Q, to doing Q auto. And yeah, we'll do that here. So auto attack Q comes out really quick, took like a second, and we'll compare that with Q, and then auto attack. Oh my god, that took forever. Right? So gets the damage out really quick. Again, a secondary objective with this could be proccing your Phase Rush if you need to get away. Like you're getting ganked or something. You can do this as early as level 1 by auto Q, auto, procs Phase Rush. Now that doesn't work quite as well with E if you start E level 1. That's typically why you go Conqueror with E start. But you'll auto E and then cancel the E and auto, and that would have procced Phase Rush if I had it up. So we'll do it again here, but auto E, cancel it, auto, Phase Rush. Oh, it's not off cooldown yet. Auto E, cancel, auto, Phase Rush. A little bit more involved. A lot of times early on, if I need to do this and I've started E, I will auto E and then ignite, and that procs Phase Rush as well. You know, you can auto Q Tiamat. Any 3 abilities will proc Phase Rush, but those are some examples of how to utilize it early. We're going to build off of, you know, once you're level 2 and beyond, you're going to be doing the auto attack Q as your base, so we'll build from there. And again, once you're level 2, auto attack Q E. Procs Phase Rush lets you stick to them. You'll get all of the E swings. You'll do a bunch of damage to them. It's a good trade pattern. That's your basic right there. Once you're level 3, you'll have W. You will either do this at the beginning, right? So auto attack QE and just W's pressed. That helps mitigate the damage that you receive. Or if they have a big ability that you need to use W against, like set W or a CC ability of some kind, you can use W during your E, right? You can use it at any time. It won't cancel your E. So you can use this reactionary as well. That's another option. So a lot of times it's just auto QE, and that's your whole trade pattern. You use W at some point. Once you're level 6, you will toss the ulti at the end of your Q silence. So we're still auto attack QE. See that silence bar, right? So again, auto attack QE. Silence bar is low. Ulti. Okay? The reason that we do that is we want as much damage from the E to come out as possible. Now, I said earlier that W does not cancel E, however, ultimate does. So, you want to have your E on as long as possible, so auto Q E, silence bar, ulti, right? Additionally, this person is likely spamming the flash key. They're silenced, so they can't use it, but a lot of times, you know, as the ulti's coming down, they'll be able to get the flash off at the end of the silence. Once this ulti starts, it's going. So there are so many times where you auto-attack QE, boom, and then they have flashed, and the ulti follows them and kills them anyway. So it's good to use this at the end. Ignite and Tiamat. These are kind of whenever. You know, you'll use your Tiamat as you E. So auto attack QE Tiamat. Yeah. And same thing with your Ignite. Honestly, what we'll do here is we'll talk about runes later, but in the mid game, you'll just walk towards them, hit Ignite on them to get that move speed, auto attack QE, and then at the end of the silence, ulti. Again, Tiamat and W whenever. So auto attack QE Tiamat ulti. Yeah. So that's it. That's basically it. Garen's trade patterns, pretty straightforward. Let's talk about what items we want next. Okay, let's take a look here. Here are the items. This is just going to be, of course, we're talking about what I like to take and why. One of the reasons why is this is a very reliable build, right? Garen does have a lot of options that he can go, but this is one that you can pretty much always default to and focus more on how to play the matchup, and you won't need to worry about am I building the correct core items, because you are. This is this is what I like to go. This is what I've had the most success with, and what I've seen a lot of other Garen players do as well. So starting items into most matchups, you are going to be going Doran's Shield. Into matchups where you can contest, you can go Doran's Blade. I almost always go Doran's Shield, and this is good even into matchups where you don't need it, just because of that health regeneration that it gives you. So between Doran's Shield, Garen's passive, and one of the runes that we'll talk about later, Garen has so much sustain. And this is a big component of it. It's a lot of passive sustain as well, where, like, of course, Doran's Blade gives sustain, but you have to auto-attack in order to get that sustain through the form of lifesteal. Whereas Doran's Shield, it's after you're taking damage from a champion, large or epic monster. You get up to 45 health over 8 seconds. It's pretty great, and it increases when you're low on health. It's crazy. Anyway, the first back will happen once you have 1100 gold. You really, really don't want to have to back before that, which is why when I was talking about the trading patterns, a lot of it early on was to proc phase rush to disengage, because you're going to win the lane through CSing and out-sustaining rather than just straight up fighting. You can do that. Great, but again, this is more reliable and consistent. So most of the time on the first back, I'll build Berserker Greaves, and that might sound kind of funny on a top laner, but the reason is the attack speed and move speed. If you think about Garen and what he wants to be building, this meets several criteria. You know, Garen wants move speed, Garen wants attack speed, Garen wants crit chance, you know. So a lot of these builds are going to have those aspects to them. He wants health. Those are kind of the big, at least early game ones, and obviously resistances later on. But that's why, you know, Berserker Greaves gives you that move speed. It lets your E do a lot more damage with the attack speed. And when you have the boots advantage on the enemy, again, you can disengage easier just by walking away. You can walk away from ganks a lot easier. You can stick to them a lot easier. And again, ups your damage. Now, something else that I'll do very, very frequently, and that I'm liking a lot more as I learn my matchups, is Phage. Again, it's 1100 gold, so you'll be backing at 1100 either way. I'll go Phage. First and foremost, I'll go Phage when I'm forced to. If I have to back before 1100 gold, you know, let's look at the components here. So Berserker's Greaves is boots and a dagger. If I can only build boots and a dagger, like if I can't complete Berserker's Greaves, I'm not just taking boots and a dagger. I'm going to opt for the Phage components, which are Ruby Crystal and a longsword. Health early on in the game is a lot more beneficial than just about any stat. So getting more health, it helps my passive as well. This is why I like Phage. And then that AD to, attack speed is nice. And if I can just buy the Berserker's Greaves, I'm gonna get that 35% attack speed. Um, but 10% attack speed, that's not worth buying on its own in that first back. 10 AD is a little bit better. So if I'm forced back early, have to base, and I can't complete one of these items, I'm gonna go the Phage route, right? I'm gonna get the Ruby Crystal Longsword. Phage is also nice because there is an aspect to it that does give you a little burst of move speed, where when you're attacking units, and this is any attack, this isn't just auto attacking, but when you're attacking units, it gives you move speed. So that's nice too, gives you 200 health, 15 AD, it's a great item to go. So that's kind of the pros and cons there. You're going to have more damage from your E, and ability to stick, and ability to disengage with the Berserker's Greaves, but having Phage is super nice, having that additional AD. That's everything. That's across the board. That's your EQ, auto attacks. You get an additional 200 health and some move speed. This is a very, very nice option. Yeah, so moving along here as you go, the core build, you're gonna ideally, in a perfect world, you're getting those Berserker Greaves early, or Phage and then Greaves, and then you are going into Stridebreaker. Before we get into Stridebreaker, I do finish Berserker's Greaves before I finish my Phage item. So even if I have to go Phage first, if I choose to go Phage first, I'm still going Berserker's Greaves next, the next back. So yeah, Greaves first, and then Stridebreaker. Now, there are a lot of other... Stridebreaker is a Tiamat item. We can look at the components here. It comes from Tiamat, Phage, and a dagger. There are a lot of other Tiamat items out there. Don't build any of them. This is like the one item where it's like, you're building Stridebreaker every game no matter what. Even in the most extreme variations of Garen, like you're building Stridebreaker. And you can only build one Tiamat item at a time, so there might be some cool interactions with other Tiamat items. It doesn't matter. You're never going to build them. Anyway, 50 AD, 30% attack speed, 450 health. So we're up to 65% attack speed at 2 items. That's pretty nice. Also, the active of it deals that cleave, that AoE damage. It grants you move speed when you hit an enemy with it. And it slows nearby enemies. And you'll gain move speed based off of how many champions you hit with it. So if you're getting ganked, you're in a side lane mid to late game, you have Stridebreaker in lane before the enemy tower's down, and you get ganked by 1 or more people. You're going against 2-3 people. If you can hit them with Stridebreaker, proc your Phase Rush, and Q out of there, you auto attack E, Stridebreaker procs your Phase Rush, and then you hit Q, you're fucking gone, dude. Like, you're so fast, and they're slowed. So this is the the unarguable item. You must go Stridebreaker. Now to round out the core build is Phantom Dancer. Again, it gives us a lot of stats that Garen really values, and that attack speed and that crit chance and that move speed. We already have a way to become ghosted, so that Spectral Waltz, the ghosting part of that is not necessarily something we're looking forward to. But again, the attack speed boost from Phantom Dancer that you get by fighting is super nice. Okay, so that's your core build. You're pretty much going to be going this every game. I didn't really touch on this, but there are some situations where instead of Berserker Greaves, you're going either Merc Treads, usually Merc Treads. Very, it's pretty rare that you'll be going plated steel caps. There are situations where you could do that too, but it feels really bad to have to build Merc Treads or steel caps. Like, you want to go Berserker Greaves. So in order here, Berserkers, Stridebreaker, Phantom Dancer, and then what I'll typically do next is Dead Man's. At this point, lane's over. Your objective is to be in a side lane opposite of the neutral objective. So if Dragon's up, you're top lane. If Dragon's down and Baron or Grubs are up, then you're bot lane, right? Once lane's over, once you have your top lane tower, then you're just gonna ping pong, be the opposite of whatever neutral objective is coming up. Um, Deadman's helps us with this. So it gives us health. Garen wants that. It gives us 5% move speed. Garen loves that. And then you build up move speed by moving, making us even faster. And, a lot of times you'll auto attack or your Q will discharge this built up move speed to deal additional physical damage. That's nice, but if you use your E, it doesn't discharge that. You just get Dead Man's Plate all the time, and you can crit constantly with E and slow them with Stride Breaker, and it's just so nice. So even into, well, this isn't a hard and fast thing. I will obviously build this if I'm going against a physical damage dealer. But even if I'm going against Mordekaiser's a bad example because he's kind of tough. But if I'm going against a matchup where I can get away with just building Negatron Cloak or Null Magic, I'll do that and then complete Dead Man's. Like a lot of times, even if there's AP threats, I'm building Dead Man's next, out of this order as my third item here. Super nice, very good. And then I'll usually go Force of Nature. Again, this works by giving us health, gives us some resistances to magic, and it gives 5% move speed. Things Garen wants. Also, its passive will give us move speed. So when we take magic damage from enemy champions, that grants us a stack, and at 8 stacks we get 70 magic resist and 10% increased move speed. So, very nice if there's a brand support, a Lilia jungle. So I did say that usually I'm going Dead Man's next, but if there's multiple AP threats, so say you're going against a Mordekaiser, there's a Lilia jungle, there's an Ari and a Brand, you'd skip Dead Man's and go for Force of Nature. And then you can always build the Dead Man's next, or vice versa. I like this as a core, and then these as my resistance items, and then by that time the game's usually over. Some other options, or some options to complete your build, would be Infinity Edge. This is really popular right now. Full crit Garen, you go Zerker Greaves, Stride Breaker, Phantom Dancer, and Infinity Edge, or sometimes you incorporate Mortal Reminder in there too for the crit chance. You're just, shredding people. It's absurd. It is overkill, in my opinion. You don't need Infinity Edge. It's just like a fun item to build. If I'm really far ahead, actually that's not even true. I'd build resistances if I was really far ahead. But, if you're building for fun, or if you feel like you can get away with it, or if you want to, you can build IE. Just keep in mind that you won't have the resistances if you build IE instead of an armor or MR item. And you don't really want to, you're missing out on that move speed too. So you're trading damage for survivability. In my opinion, it's damage you already have. Like you can already kill people with the crit that you get from Phantom Dancer, from Stride Breaker, the damage there. And then if you have a way to prevent them from killing you, that's better to me than having a bigger gun, and a sharper sword. I'm going to kill them even more. So that's my opinion on Infinity Edge. I don't build it very often, but it's super fun and you should try it out. Another common item is Mortal Reminder. This is usually built when we need Executioners calling in lane. And there are those matchups, you'll figure it out, where you're like, oh man, this guy is really sustaining through fights. I need a way to mitigate that. Executioner's calling is a nice quality of life pickup. It's not gonna... It helps. It does help. It helps. And building into Mortal Reminder, again, after all of these, so I would say we're doing this, I'd build Executioner's calling like here, and then build PD, and then finish Mortal Reminder, or maybe finished Mortal Reminder and then PD, something like that. Um, but I'd build Executioner's Calling in lane earlier on in my build if I need it. And then Mortal Reminder again gives us that attack damage, armor pin, crit strike. Super nice. It's very good. And it gives Grievous Wounds, which is freaking helpful. Sterix Gauge. This is nice for the big shield and tenacity. So if you, as Garen, are worried about getting bursted, getting burst down, which does happen, you'll get another shield. So again, I think of this as like, oh, I'm getting ganked in a side lane by half their team or something. This can help you survive. They don't get the pick on you, and your team gets Baron or Dragon, whichever objective you are on the opposite side of the map from. Because that's Garen's whole thing, is you want to draw people to the lane, you want to draw enemies to the lane that you're in, so that your team can do objectives on the other side of the map. Yeah, so Sterix Gauge is mostly for the tenacity, because this does give you tenacity as well at 20%. So very nice to build when you're going to go up against later people with chain CC. It's nice. Yeah, so Hullbreaker, it's pretty straightforward. You know, you got the attack damage. This isn't a Garen specific one. This is more of like a split pushing item. I'm never... It's another fun item that I don't usually intentionally try to go for. I don't even want to say this, but say you're losing the game super hard. You're like 0-10 and you're useless. You could just build Hullbreaker and split, and the passive from Hullbreaker, like, this is such a cheesy way to make sure that you're still having a big impact in the game when you are useless. Like, you can't fight anybody useless. Like, I'm talking super useless. If you lose super hard, that goes for any top laner. Just build Hullbreaker and split. It's another fun one though. If there are situations where it's like, oh man, you know, I can't group. You know, it's a situation where I can't group into them, and my 4-man team versus their 4 or 5-man team, like they can't do anything either. If I need to have a big presence in the side lane and really, really make them hurt for making macro decisions that aren't ganking me, Hullbreaker's the way to go. It's nice. I do like this item. I just rarely buy it. Black Cleaver, in my opinion, is like IE. It's kind of overkill. You get the armor shred from your E, but this is nice to go if there are a lot of tanks, like Zac top, Sejuani jungle, fucking Galio mid, Ornn support, or Alistar support, something like that. There's a bunch of tanks, or you're gonna be, yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever built this item, but I have seen it built, and it's fine. It's okay. It's not the best item to build. Now, this is a point of contention, I think, from what I've seen in the Garen players, and that's Triforce. If you're going to go the Triforce build, great. You know, it's still Greaves, Triforce. You build Greaves first, and then you go into Triforce, and then Stridebreaker. So Triforce gives us that Phage, so if we need Phage early, we can still build it and then go into Triforce. But you're going Stridebreaker anyway next. Trinity Force also, people say, is a little bit of a bait to build because Garen's E doesn't use Sheen. Yeah, but it's still Phage. It gives us, from the Axe component of it, it gives us attack speed and attack damage. That's nice. And ability haste is not necessarily a stat that we're looking for. It's okay. It's not terrible. The big thing from Trinity Force is, you know, the big attack speed, the big attack damage, and the big health that it gives you. It's a good all-around item. It's just so expensive. It's more expensive than Stridebreaker. So going Triforce delays your Phantom Dancer, and, you know, okay, sure. Additionally, I don't think I would ever build Triforce without going Conqueror. So it's kind of matchup specific too. I don't know. I never build this item. Use it at your discretion. It is an option. It's very popular. Okay, so those are the that is the build that I go just about every time. And again, it's this one. It's something like that. So boom. And then, you can make changes in the order of the resistances that you go, or make changes as needed or as you feel like it. But that's his core build. Yeah, there you go. So let's talk about runes next. Okay, so there are basically two routes to go when it comes to runes. The first is a Conqueror route. You're going to take this into matchups where you can contest the wave early, or just if you want to. Conqueror does give you um, Garen is not an early game champion, but Conqueror can help give you more damage early. So it's good at all points in the game, but the trade-off in Conqueror versus Phase Rush is if you take Phase Rush, you are missing the Conqueror damage. So you know how Conqueror works. You can read it there. E stacks Conqueror, which is nice. Helps give you that damage, and Ignite will keep Conqueror up. It doesn't add stacks, but it does keep it active. So Conqueror works really well with our kit. The next one here, the next rune down, is typically Triumph. I like the additional gold that I'll get, and getting health back is super nice and kind of spicy situations, but low key, getting 2 to 20 health for killing minions is not nothing. So in tougher situations where it's like I'm going Conqueror, but I might need a little bit of assistance in the wave, like my E will kill minions, give me health back while I'm trading type of situation. Absorb life is not nothing. So that's a good option as well. Here I actually like going Alacrity. I like the attack speed. Up to 15 if you can max it out. But hey, I mean 15% cooldown reduction's not nothing either. That's super nice too. Get those Qs going all the time, being super fast. But again, I'll usually go that. And then cut down, yeah, sure. Get them below the 50% health threshold faster, so that I have a opportunity to use my ulti, because you want to get them below that 60% health. And so getting them to that threshold is faster is always nice. But yeah, there are other options. I usually just go cut down. Okay, so secondary, no matter what rune I'm doing as my primary, my secondary is in the resolve tree. Technically, you've got options here. I love Second Wind. I'll take Second Wind no matter what, but especially into your ranged matchups, your Kinnons, your Quinns, Vaynes, stuff like that. Taking Second Wind gives you a percentage of your missing health back over 3 seconds. Or plus 3 over 10 seconds, excuse me. But gives you a percent of your missing health back after taking damage from a champion. So if they go up and they auto attack you, you get 4%. I see it as like a 4% damage reduction. You know what I mean? It doesn't really work that way, but you're getting the health back over 10 seconds. If you take Doran's shield with this, you will also get health back from Doran's shield over a certain amount of time, and you have your passive, which gives you a percentage of your health back over time. So the Second Wind, Doran's shield, and your passive, that's how you sustain through the early lane phase. So I would pretty much take Second Wind no matter what. But yeah, into your Teemos, Second Wind and Doran's shield is super good. It's good into the range matchups. Second is, Demolish. A lot of times I'll go Demolish here. It just helps you get the plates faster. You're going to be spending a lot of your time mid to late getting towers. This does tower damage. This will help you get your tower early. A lot of times it can be a situation where you're racing the enemy bot laners to get the first tower, and Demolish can help out there. If I'm going Demolish and the matchup allows for it, I will also go sometimes Overgrowth. Here we go. Because, well, second wind overgrowth, I'll go when I'm a big scaredy cat. But overgrowth gives you 3 max health every wave or so, every 8 minions. So it's not a wave specifically, but you gain maximum health when you kill a certain number of minions. So, and then it goes up by a percentage. So, overgrowth is nice, and when you have overgrowth and demolish's damage is based off of your max health. So if you have more max health, demolish is gonna do more. Again, I'm gonna go second wind and demolish just because I want that sustain. In matchups where I need it, I'll go bone plating demolish. So if it's not a ranged matchup, if it's one where they're gonna get their abilities off pretty quick, and it's not like a pokey thing, then bone plating is nice to receive less damage from the next 3 spells or attacks. And again, even in those situations, you know, going in for the trade, getting second wind proc, I like second wind, man. So I'll do this a lot, but occasionally, let's see here. Not really gonna ever go unflinching. You get a lot of armor and MR later and from your W, so it's fine. You don't need unflinching. The other one I'll sometimes go. This is big baby mode, right? Like, is revitalize. I did this to help me learn. So it's a 5% boost to your heals and your shield too, whatever. But your passive healing, your healing from second wind, your healing from Doran's shield proccing, you get a 5% boost to that. And then when you are below 40% health, your passive will do 10% stronger heals to you. So Doran's blade will do Doran's shield will do 10% stronger heal. So it's nice for those where you're like, I'm just going to be low all the time and I want to regen as quickly as possible. So this I did early a lot just to learn. But right now it would be something like, it'd be something like that. It'd be something like that. This is what I would go. Now for the stones down here, yeah, the double adaptive force is nice. Sometimes attack speed, usually double adaptive force, right? Because your primary trading ability is the Q into melees. So this is something that I think is super fun to do too. Again, this is a scaling build, and I would do it with demolish, and I would never not have second wind, but you could do something like this and just do big tower damage late. But we'll keep it what I would normally do here. And that is that. Yeah, that's that. So that's a good page. So that's Conqueror. The other one is Phase Rush. We'll get to the secondary tree in a minute here, but Phase Rush is super nice. I love it. I take this rune most of the time. So we talked about this earlier, but hitting an enemy champion with 3 attacks or abilities within 4 seconds gives you a move speed buff and a slow resistance, 75% slow resistance while it's active. Yeah, and it's actually, I didn't even realize this is 25% for melee. Holy cow. But a big move speed buff, slow resistance, it's very nice. Additionally, and really what this page is move speed, right? I love move speed as a stat. It's one of the reasons I like Garen. So Phase Rush gives you move speed. Nimbus Cloak, when you flash away or you ignite, you will get a move speed duration for 2 seconds, and it lets you pass through units too. And it's based off of the summoner spell cooldown. The higher summoner spells will give you more of a move speed buff, so flashing away will give you more than igniting. But this helps me stick on them, right? With Ignite. I can hit Ignite and stay on them, or in a pinch, I can Ignite, not looking to trade, just Ignite, and it will give me a speed boost to run away from like a gank or something like that. So it's nice. Nimbus Cloak's really, really good. Um, Celerity is just to give the move speed bonuses even more of a bonus. Um, yeah, that's really all it is. And then Water Walking is for the moving around the map and the roaming, because we're not going to talk about this during this um, guide here, but a lot of times the way that Garen is involved with team fighting is he's going to push a side lane first. He's going to push a side lane and then flank. So he'll push the tower, maybe draw the enemy top laner, and then you're going to flank while your team is doing a 4v4 and get to them that way. And so water walking helps us get to the team fight or get to the side lane faster. Just move around faster. Again, Resolve, it's the exact same thing. Second wind every time. Fucking demolish. Boom. And then I like to go a scaling build because I'm a big baby. But yeah, that's a good. Those are the builds there. We'll also touch on the summoner spells that we'll use, and every single time it's flash, and every single time it is ignite. Sometimes it'll be ghost if you want for fun. Very rarely it's exhaust. I've never used it. But yeah, flash every time for obvious reasons. And then we talked about Ignite with the runes. Ignite has a lot of utility. You can ghost away, with Ignite. You can ghost towards somebody with Ignite if you have the right runes. Plus it does damage. Plus it keeps your Conqueror stacked. It's super nice. One ability, a summoner spell that you'll never ever go ever is Teleport, which sounds weird because you want to be in a side lane, right? But you don't need teleport in lane because of your passive, and you will never be teleporting into a fight. You'll die. Garen's not a teleport to a fight guy. You approach the team fight as like an assassin angle where you're flanking, and then you one-shot somebody, and then that's kind of your job. Then you're back to the side lane. But Ignite gives you kill pressure in lane early. We have that utility with the summoner spells. It gives us kill pressure as part of our combo in the mid to late game. It flash Ignite every time, no matter what. Okay, and that's the whole thing. This is super long, so much longer than I thought, but I hope it was helpful. I know all this information was very helpful for me. And let me know if this is beneficial to you. If you have any questions, let me know what you already knew too, because I over-explained and I started this at a very, very like baseline level just so we could, have that conversation and build from a baseline level. So I'm sure I said plenty of things that you already knew, and that's good. And hopefully there were some things that you didn't know, because I like sharing knowledge that I've found. And, why should you have to try to find that knowledge yourself, that information yourself through trial and error when someone else already has? And I have found that person and I'm relaying their information to you. So yeah, just let me know how this was. This was a lot of fun to do. Keep playing Garen, and yeah, dude, good luck.